So you want to start animating in Aseprite, but you're a bit confused of the timeline, or maybe you just like watching tutorials. Hey guys, I'm Kai, welcome back to TutsByKai, and today we are back in Aseprite once again, and we're gonna be taking a look at the timeline functions down at the bottom there. So first things first, let's get started. We have our, of course, go to the first frame, previous frame, play animation, go to the next frame, and go to the last frame. Down here we have our layers, so if I want to right click this, I can go a new layer, or I can hit shift in, but we can add a new layer, and then we can draw on top of our existing layer. Of course you know how layers work already, hopefully. So we have our little eye over here. This will hide this layer. So if I were to draw a disgustingly ugly neon pink circle, maybe I would erase that little piece at the top. Hit E to erase, by the way. We can change our brush size. We can go boom. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. We can add that right there, boom, and we can hide that layer, or we can lock that layer so I can never do anything to it again. I can't erase it, I can't add anything to it, but we can unlock that anytime we want to. This little button right here, we'll get into that a little bit later once we have a couple more frames. If I want to, I can actually hit this little settings icon up here and position this at different places. The timeline, we can position this at different places. We can position it to the left, or to the right, which is pretty handy, especially when you're animating sprites for games. You have it over there on the right over there. It's pretty good sometimes, but I do prefer to have it at the bottom, since I can see more of the frames all the way along the bottom of the screen. So we can have onion skin, we have the merge frames, or the red and blue tint. I'm going to have that on the red and blue tint for now. We can change the opacity and the opacity step of each onion skin layer. We can have it loop through tag frames, and I'll get into tag frames in a second here, or we can have it show the current layer only. Behind the sprite or in front of the sprite, of course, this is all for the onion skin properties as well. So we can have the onion skin show up behind the sprite or in front of it. Behind the sprite is better in my opinion because you can see what you're doing. Alright, so this little button right here, this is the, ooh, yes, that's right, that's correct. Okay, let's add some frames here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this little plus down here, and this will add some frames. So we can just add a couple of frames, and this will add frames based on what this frame looks like. So if I go on frame 1 and have this looking like this, all of these frames will have the same circle. So if I go to frame 2 now and hit B to get my brush, or go over here to this pencil tool, I can add like this bigger piece over here, like maybe that's an ear. Yeah, maybe this is an ear, and his ear just got bigger. As you can see the onion skin beneath that. And if we go back and forth between the layers, you can see that his ear gets smaller and bigger. That's pretty nice. All right, so that's the onion skin right there. Oh, that's the onion skin right there. That's the onion skin property. If we turn that on and off, you'll be able to tell that we can see the onion skin and we cannot see the onion skin. All right. So now that we have pretty much all of these functions down, except for this little double circle tool here, this is pretty confusing, especially because not many other programs have something like this. So as you can tell, if I click this, it will make it so that these circles are no longer separate. What this does is if I get rid of a couple more of these frames, clicking and dragging, I can move these frames around by clicking and dragging the yellow bar when it comes up after we selected them and move them around, by the way. So let's get rid of these. Let's delete some of those, and we will delete the layers as well. Oh, let's delete the layers. If we click and drag up on the layers, on the frames, rather than the cells, this is how you can think of this. All right, so this little button right here, this is to link the cells and the frames. The layers are this layer right here. So if I add another layer, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, and so on and so forth. These numbers up here, these are the numbers of the frames. And down here, these are the cells of the frames above it. So this is the cell for frame 1, this is the cell for frame 2, this is the cell for frame 3, and this is the cell for frame 4. It's a little confusing, but once you get it down, it should be pretty simple. So this is the cell for frame 1, so if I hit add new frame, this will add another frame with all of in between these, so it just created another frame. And we can go on, and as you can tell, we have this line right here. What is this line now? This line is different than the circles that we had before, because before if we drew something, it would just be like a circle there, a circle there, and a circle there. Now we have this entire line that's stretched out. What this is pretty much if I were to go and select everything with M, drag this on down. Maybe I'll turn onion skin back on and drag this down and then drag this down and then drag this down. And as you can tell, all of these frames were affected. Now, if I were, now all of these frames were affected, as you can see. I didn't even have to select them all. All of them were affected, which pretty much means these are all linked to each other. So if I unlink these frames by right-clicking and unlink, if I unlink these, unlink, if I unlink all these, you can be able to tell that I can move all of these separately now. Pretty cool stuff, huh? So now I can move all of these frames separately, or I can move them all together. That's really, really neat. So now we have a bit of an animation of the circle going down. I'll deselect everything. The circle going down, and then, you know, doing some weird stuff. That's a great animation. So what we're going to do now is we're going to delete all of these frames. And really quickly, I'm going to start a bit of an animation so you can see what's going on. But first things first, we're going to need to add our preview. Our preview is so we can see our animation at its default resolution, which is pretty small. So we're going to show preview down here. Down here, you can see that show preview button. And sometimes it just acts a little weird. So I'm gonna grab this and just pull it up and down. All right. So our preview, we can make this bigger and smaller over here. So pretty much what this is it's going to show us our animation. So if we don't want to add any more frames, we just want to add some cells to our frame. Since we already have 8, we don't need to keep adding more. We can add 10. We're going to just hit B and just draw on each individual frames. So I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a circle, something like that, just a really messed up looking circle. Turn onion skin on. I'm going to make the circle go down. Circle go down. Of course, you've seen this stupid bouncing ball animation so many times. So we're gonna just do that and make it bounce right back up, make it bounce right back up, something like that. Maybe get thinner, bouncing, yeah, something like that. Something simple, right? Just something quick and easy. If I turn onion skin off, you'll be able to tell that is our animation of the bouncing little ball, done very quickly, that you've probably seen a bunch of times. But one last thing, a couple of things I didn't touch on up here. These little animation properties right here, we can choose pixel perfect, and if I draw, you'll be able to tell that we have these really weird double edges that a lot of people don't like in pixel art. We have this kind of zigzag thing, but if I choose pixel perfection, when I draw, you can see that we have those nice clean edges with the individual pixels instead of it being sort of doubled up like that. And this right here, this is the ink. So if I were to delete everything I just did, this is the ink really quickly. Simple ink or alpha compositing right there. We can pretty much what this is I don't use this very often. We just use simple ink, but the shading can be pretty handy because if you were to draw over top of your pixel art, you can actually shade with the different colors. And not have to go through it. Of course, you wouldn't want your your pink to be the next color. What this does is pretty much it just takes the color that's beneath this color. So we're using this color, so it's going to shade to this one, then 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 to this one. So pretty much you want to line up your colors in order of brightness or luminance rather. So when you shade, it will be darker and darker and darker and darker and darker instead of just some random color. But that's a pretty good tool. So I'm going to go back to that. And of course, you can change the pixel shape, draw bigger, and you can change the type of brush here. So that is pretty much it for our Aseprite beginner tutorials of all of the animation. Of course, if I were to play that animation that we did, you can be able to tell that it's playing over here as well. If you want to leave this playing or not playing, you can actually have this playing while the animation over there is not playing, which is really handy for animating. I can animate and it real time will change the animation over there. So if I want to make another frame right there and have a giant one just pop out of nowhere, it will instantly change right there. We can zoom in on that as well. So that is pretty cool. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial of the basics of animating in Aseprite. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial, but until then, bye.